For me, so many people say to me, they're really trying to figure out how to find that advisor who will really listen to them for their financial planning, their financial health, someone who will understand their values and who will not talk down to them. You lead the women's practice for a wealth advisory firm. Can you tell me what does that mean, and how are women different from any other investor?
What an outstanding question. Because generally speaking, everybody's on the bandwagon about helping women, right? Every firm out there has a women's division. But what I find is they're basically offering the exact same service and the exact same products, but changing the font to pink. That doesn't cut it, because
Charging more
women,
money if it's like everything else, right?
exactly. And women are just inherently different in this respect from men, like they are many. The Mars and Venus thing holds true when it comes to money, because women don't generally chase returns. They chase security, and with good reason, because women live longer than men. Something like 90+% of women will manage their family's assets on their own. 95% of women die alone, regardless of marital status. So this is an area that women are really focused on, is not running out of money, not being that dreaded bag lady, because we don't know how long we're going to live, and we generally don't have anyone to take care of us like a husband does. So we have to pay for that.
Yeah, we sure do. Well, so you're talking about a couple of things that are sort of documented, like this is how women are a little bit different. Like, is there something among women about how your wealth status might correlate with your sense of financial empowerment, or even like what kind of roles you're seeing that people take? Like if you're a corporate woman versus somebody who has inherited wealth, what are the differences in how we think about investing?
Well, so women generally are better investors when they invest, because they have a long view, which is what's required to be a good investor. So they are focused on security, as I said, and they're not following the day-to-day market fluctuations. A lot of times men do that. It's almost like gambling. They buy high, sell low, they trade a lot, and all of those activities actually lower their returns. So generally, we would say that women invest 1 to 2% more than men. They earn more than 1 to 2% more than men over their lifetimes when they invest. The problem is when men are more likely to invest than women. Women are sometimes afraid of financial markets. They don't really understand them. They see stock market volatility and they think they've lost money, when in fact you've only lost money if you sell low, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so women sitting on cash or money market or CDs will actually lose purchasing power to inflation. About every 15 years, you lose half the value of your portfolio. So you really need to invest those assets, and you're good investors. I mean, what I tell my women clients is trust your gut. If somebody's talking down to you or over you, or just saying, oh, you're so risk averse, just take my advice and do X. Don't do it, because you generally know better. Your natural investment temperament is better. So we have to own that and believe it.
Oh God, I can only imagine being one of your clients, what a relief it would be to feel so seen. How do you actually, you just did it kind of, but how do you really help women feel that sense of empowerment, and how do you give them space to explore what's important to them and to sort of play with like their fears? I mean, that's got to be a big part of your business, is talking to people about what is the emotion you're bringing forward, and how much of that is maybe real, and how much of it is, can you help through a little bit of Haleh therapy?
I do think my job is more therapy than finance, actually, but
yeah, you get the honorary doctorate from me, darling.
So I would say that the biggest tool that we have is financial planning. And so if you came to me, Julie, and you said, I want to know what my net worth is going to be every year forward from now until my age 100, and how does that change if I buy the vacation home, or if I got divorced, or if I got remarried, or if I have a health event, I can do a plan and run each one of those scenarios for you so that you can make an informed decision
So safety with
about
the knowledge and being
the
able to
knowledge
see.
is power. And a lot of times women who are risk averse toward investing, you just run a financial plan where they're making 1% in a CD and show them that they will run out of money in X period of time versus if they're invested, and put some money on the sidelines for an emergency fund so that you do have cash reserves, but it's not your entire nest egg because you've got to grow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You've written really fascinating books. To me, they're kind of a must read. We should be sending them to all of our girlfriends. But can you tell us sort of, a little bit, what are the highlights of those books and what has your response been from people? Like, how many love letters have you gotten? Like, you say, my financial future, I feel so much more confident.
Well, sadly, the book that gets the most press, I would say, is the divorce book because it's an epidemic among boomer women. The divorce rate among people who are 50 and over has grown at double the general divorce rate. It is truly a pandemic.
Wow.
And amazingly, 2/3 of the time, it's the women that are leaving those marriages. And so women are often, they're afraid. If they're leaving the marriage, many of the women in this generation haven't had careers, haven't worked. And even if they have, it's the husband who is managing the assets. So she might be managing the day-to-day budget, but she doesn't really have an idea of what the investments are, what the value of the stock options are, what the value of the privately held business is. So it's a daunting thing to be thinking of leaving that marriage and being sort of cut off financially while you're trying to negotiate a settlement. And so this book is a step-by-step primer to women going through a divorce, whether you're the leaver or you're the one who is being left in the marriage. How do you go about valuing your marital estate? The stats prove this out, but men who get divorced generally achieve or exceed their married standards of living, but women don't.
Oh
And
my
part of the
God.
reason
I
is
mean, I thought this happened with my mother's cohort. I can't believe it's still the case.
it's still the case. And like a lot of times women just leave money on the table at the negotiating
Because they're
table because
exhausted. They just want to
they're
be
exhausted.
done.
They're
Yeah.
tired and they're kind of like, I'm the one that's leaving and I don't want to take his business. Poor Jack. Okay, well, 10
Yeah,
years
poor
later,
Jack.
Jack's got the company and a yacht and a young woman on his arm, and you're the one sitting there like, Social Security's not cutting it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. And also the doing the planning and investing the assets you do have. Don't sit there in cash. Right.
I have to tell you, it's interesting that you say that sort of the situation for most women, maybe those are the boomer women. I think I'm 55 today, so I'm just a little bit younger than boomers, but most of my friends are the primary breadwinners because I guess that's who I hang out with, right? As am I. And they have to pay out a lot of money when they end those marriages for a long time. And it's kind of a fascinating thing to think about the flip side, right? And also planning for that. And how do you set that up? So if you were going to give one life lesson that you could share with people, like what is the most, so I've heard a couple of things, don't leave it in cash, put a plan together for multiple years forward so that you can really know what your choices are. What is another sort of, if everybody just had a Haleh next to them, what would be better?
Well, I think the most important thing is know what your financial situation is at all times. For some reason, we women tend to delegate our investment management to men, whether it's a men advisor, whether it's your husband, whether it's your dad. And the fact of the matter is we generally outlive the men. So why would you delegate this very important thing to someone who's probably not going to be around when you need it? Right? So I would say that we women, this is not an IQ issue. It's a matter of interest. You're kind of like busy taking care of your kids, your parents, your day-to-day life, your business, you're busy and you just kind of put that on the back burner, but you need that money to be able to make it long-term. And you need to know where the assets are, what they are, make sure they're jointly titled, make sure that you know all the accounts, the value of the business, all of those things. Like, get your head out of the sand, I think would be my message.